Welcome to Healing Your Family Legacy, here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Innovative, evidence-based recovery that helps to identify intergenerational trauma, allowing for freedom and embracement of the healing process. Today, episode 79, Change, Part 2. And now your host, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee.
And this is Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, helping you heal your family legacy. Last week, I talked about change, and I'm going to talk about change again today. But before I do that, I would like to invite any of you who would like for me to address any issue, one that I've already covered and you're concerned about, or any that you might think, gosh, I wish you'd talk about this. Please let me know. You can email me at healingyourfamilylegacy@gmail.com. You can also go on to my website, donnabevanlee.com, and there's a link on there to my email. So please, if you would like for me to talk about anything in particular that I have or have not covered in the past, please let me know. That would be good. So, and I would also like to invite you to get my book pretty soon. I would say in the next month, it'll be available on audiobook as well as being able to buy a hard copy. It's not a hard copy, it's paperback now. And it's called Iron Legacy, Childhood Trauma and Adult Transformation. So I'd like to just suggest those two things. On my website, donnabevanlee.com, there are many blogs, and there will be a new blog coming up in the next week or so. So you can also read more about what I have to say if you'd like anything about what I talk about. So today I'm going to talk about change part 2. And last week when we ended, I challenged you to look at your own lives and say, what things do I need to adapt and adjust to that are part of the natural order of change? All right. Now, there might be some things that you come up with. There certainly are some things that I think about and I refuse to adjust to. But I'm not openly fighting it. All right. I am in my own way, but I'm not out on the streets, okay? So one thing that I refuse to adjust to is white supremacy. I won't adjust to that. I won't adapt to it because it is dangerous for people that I love and care about, okay? People of color, people who are not like me. So I won't adjust to that. And I'll, I know that when I see a white supremacist, I just don't feel good inside. But I'm not going to walk into a Ku Klux Klan meeting and tell them I think they're all wrong. I'm just not going to do it, okay? So I think that that is something that I just have to be challenged by. My dear mother, who has since passed, she said to me one time when we were talking about my being gay, and she told me that she was approached by a quote unquote, what we call general authority in the Mormon church, and it was suggested to her in a very strong way that she disown me, because I'd come out to the church. I mean, they called me on a mission, for crying out loud. It's like, are you kidding me? I don't think that'd be a good idea. And I just said, no, I can't go on a mission. I'm gay. That would be wrong. Now I know there are gay people on missions, okay? But they're what we call closeted. That means that they haven't come out to themselves. They hide from themselves, and they're trying not to be gay. Good luck on that. But she told me that this had happened and she thought long and hard about what to do, because she is one of the most stalwart members of the Mormon Church. And she told him, after, a long period of time, fasting and praying, because that's what we do in the church. We fast, we pray, and we wait for some kind of guidance. And she told him no, she wouldn't disown me. And I know, having been a pretty stalwart Mormon myself, that wasn't easy for her to do. But she just told him, I won't do that. And that required them to start to adjust their feelings and their attitudes toward gay people. And that was back in the early 70s. And I said, well, how do you work with that yourself? I asked her, how are you going to adjust and adapt to the fact that your oldest daughter is gay? And she said, well, I think that it's good for people to be gay. I don't understand it, but I think it challenges the rest of us to question ourselves and to learn how to love people that aren't like us. Well, my mother said a few things in my life that was jaw-dropping. That was one of them. But I think she's right. Of course, she being the super Mormon that she she said that she thought this was God's plan, part of God's plan. That, there would be gay people who would challenge the rest of us. So that we would have to learn how to understand and accept things and people who weren't like us. I mean, just stop and think about that for a minute. Let's say that everything stayed the same, which I don't know what that would be like, but let's just say you could go back to your favorite childhood town that you loved, a part of it that you loved, and that town never changed. The people never changed. Everybody stayed the same. Everybody looked alike. Everybody acted the same. Would that be something that you would really like? I think it would be about as boring as you could say. You'd never be challenged. So your intellect, and I'm sorry to say that many people are still in their 13-year-old intellect and their 13-year-old ego state. You've heard me talk about this before. But do you want to never know anything more than you knew when you were 12 or 8 or 4? Because it would require that. You would only be able to know what you knew then. You couldn't know anymore. Okay? So we would never see those magnificent pictures from the James Webb telescope. Never. We would never have, be able to walk on the moon. Nobody would ever be able to find cures for bad diseases or vaccinations to keep us from getting bad diseases. And there are so many things we would not know. And I'm not saying we as a culture, I'm just saying you. Would you like to be stuck not knowing anything more than you knew at the age you think you'd like to be? I know I wouldn't. I love learning new things. Now, that doesn't mean that I sit with my nose in a book every day. But it does mean that when I wake up in the morning, I start learning new things all the time. And part of it is challenging myself to what I knew yesterday. And, as we age, it gets a little more difficult. When we're young, we don't even notice it. It's happening so fast that we don't even notice how we're growing and changing. It's just happening fast. As we age, it's harder to, we don't grow as fast. We don't adapt as fast. We don't adjust as fast. But if you ask me, and, I do have a PhD, I have some knowledge in human development and human growth. If you want to live if you want to live your full life to its fullest extent and not lose your mind, and sometimes you don't have any control over that, but those of us who do, we continue to change and adapt to the world, to our environment. I hear it every day, even in the town I live in now. There are people who are trying to figure out ways that we can adapt and adjust to the changes that are happening. But then there are people who just rail against the inevitable. Like that man that I saw on the news, who was just angry that his town had changed. And, maybe he wouldn't be so angry if while he was living there and never left, he would have been more involved with the adaptations and the changes that are going to occur. Maybe he could get to know some of the new people that moved in. Maybe he could do the thing that I was trained to do and I trained my son to do. I think of it now, and they probably thought we were a little weird, but when new people would move into our neighborhood, no matter where we lived, we always went over and said, "Hi, we're your neighbors, and here's some cookies that I baked. Welcome to the neighborhood. If you have any questions or you need anything, please let me know." I take my little boy with me, and I taught him how to say it, and he'd say, "Hi, welcome to the neighborhood." And I think he still does it. And I know I do. When I moved to my new neighborhood, it wasn't even completely built yet, but we were one of the first ones here. And we were here during COVID. And even during that COVID Christmas, we made things for people that moved into our neighborhood, and we took them all around everybody. "Hi, this is who we are, and we'd like to welcome you to the neighborhood." People were looking at us like, "What?" Of course, we had masks on. But imagine how you'd feel if when new people came into your neighborhood, instead of seeing them as vermin that were taking over your space, you welcomed them and said, "Hey, we'd like you to, ask us." And they do. They do. And that's how you create neighbors. That's how you create community. And when you have community, you might notice that most of them, I know for myself, here's a news flash. I'm a gay person, and I haven't met any other gay persons in my neighborhood. It's hard to imagine they're not there, but so far, it's true. So, I could get really angry and say, all these people who live here are heterosexual. I was one of the first ones here. They shouldn't let people move in like that. No. I've been forced to adapt to change and adjust to the inevitable because of who I am. And guess what? So do you. And those who don't adjust and adapt feel angry, feel like it's unfair, which always makes me laugh. I mean, not out loud. I wouldn't laugh in somebody's face, although I have in my office back in the day when somebody says, it's not fair. And I say to them, guess what? Fair is that thing that happens in the spring and the fall when everybody goes and, looks at people's vegetables and their creations and their crafts and hobbies and everything else. That's a fair. And there are rides. And there are those scones. Okay? That's a fair. That's what a fair is. Fair is not real. It's fantasy. Part of it is what our parents used to say, now, that's not fair that you ate 2 pieces of apple and now your sibling doesn't have one. Okay, so you learn how to share. And you learn how to notice that, there are other people here. You learn how to be compassionate when your parents teach you that. But this idea of there's some kind of fairness in the world, well, there isn't. It's called, you must adapt. You must adjust to change because it's happening. You can't stop it. I can't stop it. I see all the time, because of my age, and I'm 71, just in case I've got someone new out there. I'm 71 years old. I'll be 72 soon. And as a result of that, being tracked, I know I'm tracked and I try and untrack, but, it's happening all the time. I get a barrage of quote unquote beauty products to stop and slow aging. Well, for those of you who know me, I guess I kind of believe this because people tell me this all the time. You don't look 71. I'm not really sure what 71 is supposed to look like, but I think I look my age. Okay? And it wasn't easy. I'll tell you, next to being gay, and after becoming a mother, because that's a big change and an adjustment, but in between there was how, the fact that I am aging, like it or not. Nobody in the history of men and womankind has found a way to stop that. God knows we've tried. Not me personally, but God knows it's been on the front and burner of human beings and human existence. Now, instead of drinking special water from a special place in, somewhere where nobody goes, now it's about makeup. It's about cosmetics. It's about cosmetic surgery. I've railed a little bit about cosmetic surgery, so I don't need to re-rail that. But, I see women in particular, some men do it now, but go in and have their faces and eyes and, all carved up so they won't look old. And what I've noticed is that when I look at them, I look after about the 5th or 6th surgery, I think, who are you? I used to know who you are, but geez, now I don't recognize you. And they look strange, and guess what? They all look alike. Remember what I said about everybody being the same? Boring. So, what I've discovered, and everybody has their own opinion, being someone who understands that every moment of my life is about change, and I can either adapt to it, I can accept it, if you do both. And it was hard. It was so hard, and it is every day a hard thing for me to realize that I'm aging. At some point, I probably will have to deal with the reality that I'll die. I don't really deal with that on a daily basis. It's come, it's a little closer than it used to be. But I know that that's the end result. But most of my experience is realizing that aging is inevitable. I can go in and get surgery if I want. I don't. I can, get this $500 bottle of special serum or whatever, and I can put it all over my face, and maybe those wrinkles I have won't look as wrinkly, but they inevitably will come back. Nothing is forever. Well, I could go in and get all those Botox things, but if I adjust and adapt to change, this is what I do. I keep my mind active, and this is one of the ways I do it. It's by doing this podcast, and I still work 1 day a week, and, I'm working on my audiobook, and, but I also do other things to keep my mind active. Going on hikes as many days as I do, which is probably, I've cut it back now because of my torn calf muscle. So now I only go maybe 4 days a week, okay, on a hike. I try and walk somewhere around my neighborhood every day. But, here's what happens is that every day is a new day. Every day there's change in the world. And I notice it every day. The clouds look different. My yard looks different. It's beautiful. My yard looks different. The sky looks different. And I adapt and adjust to that. So if I go outside, say I'm even on a hike, and I look outside to see how things are, I listen to the weather report. I'm smart about these things. And I see that there are certain clouds in the sky in the morning. I say, I think I better take my raincoat today. I think I better take my rain gear today. Even though the sun's out, there's just little clouds in the sky. I think, up in the mountains, it can be different. It might have a thunderstorm. So that's called adapting, okay? I don't stand there and rail at those little clouds and say, I don't want you here because I don't want to get caught in a thunderstorm. I go get my rain gear. That's what you do. Now, you might think, well, that's easy. Well, it is. It is easy. My point is that when you are an adapter and you adapt to things that are inevitable and you change what you're doing because of the inevitable, rather than rail and try and make it go backwards, you just say, okay, here's something new. Here's something new. I mean, just for instance, because there have been sometimes Democrats win the White House, sometimes Republicans win the White House. When the ones I don't want to win, I feel pretty bad, maybe for a few days, and kind of sad and a little worried. But, I adapt because I don't want to spend the next 4 years pissed off that my candidate didn't win. I still get up in the morning. I notice, has anything changed in my life that is like impossible? No. Do I have enough food to eat? Yes. Do I have a roof over my head? Yes. Do I have people in my life that care about me? Yes. Did I die last night in my sleep? No. Well, I guess I can get up and live my life. It's called adapting. So if I don't want to listen to that person that won the White House, I just don't. I know that I will find out what the new rules are, what the new regulations are, and what's going on in the world, because I still listen to the news. I just may not want to listen to them. That's fine. I can just find out what's going on and work really hard on the candidate that might be my candidate for the next time. It's called adapting. I don't rail against it. I might feel mad, and I might feel sad, and I might even feel scared. but take note of what's really going on in your life and then decide what you're going to do next time. Instead of trying to make us go backwards, try to make yourself go backwards. I see people all the time trying to make their aging process go backwards. You can't do it. Now, why, I think it's true maybe that I don't look my age. Okay, my hair is pretty much the same color as it was before. Well, before I colored a little bit and put highlights in it when I was younger. But, I have these beautiful little white areas, but most of my hair is not white, is not gray. It's just my regular color. And obviously I have some energy, so I would say that I might be a little more energetic. I'm height weight proportionate because I get exercise, I eat right, I have people in my life that love me, I get enough sleep every night. Well, sometimes I have a bad dream or something that wakes me up, but I get the sleep I need because I go to bed at night and I get up in the morning. I do all the things that I can do, not to reverse my aging, but to embrace it, accept it, and live with it. And I would challenge any of you where changes are happening in your life to say, okay, how can I adjust to this? How can I adapt to this? How can I accept it? So let's say Roe v. Wade. I know that 70% of the population likes Roe v. Wade and are not happy about the fact that it's been overturned. So what are we doing? We're marching. We're giving money to the candidates that we think will help us codify this in Congress so that it won't be challenged anymore. We're not, those who are just sitting there being pissed about it, it's not going to help. But you could say, well, this is a change I don't like so much. It's not affecting my daily life. It never will. I will never be pregnant again. But 70% of the people think it's a good idea, and all those young women need to have the opportunity and the options that I did when I was 22. So, that's what you do. I would say to you to just put this in your mind. Change is inevitable. You can't stop it. But it doesn't have to destroy you. In fact, it can improve your life. It can enhance your life. If you got a job, if you got a raise, that's a change. If somebody of color moves into your neighborhood, instead of being angry, say, well, I wonder what this is going to be like. Maybe I'll go over and welcome them to the neighborhood and see how they are doing and take them some cookies. Bet your neighborhood will be better for it. Get creative. You can do this. Okay. That's the challenge. Remember, you can email me at healingyourfamilylegacy@gmail.com. I will get back to you. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Healing Your Family Legacy here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. Healing Your Family Legacy is copyright 2022, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The SoulWorks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. SoulWorks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the SoulWorks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.